Going back to the defensive line. So if the Browns can find a way to clear $20 million in cap space, what would Javon Hargrave give them? Played under Schwartz, 40 quarterback hurries, 30 run stops in 2022. So this brings us to the question that we talked about a little bit briefly earlier. I personally wouldn't do $20 million with one guy. I'd rather spread it out over 4 or 5 because I don't think this defensive line is one player away from being a really good line. And with Jim Schwartz, you need a good defensive line. I think you're kind of in the same boat. You'd rather do 4 or 5 guys, spread that 20, 25, whatever it is, over multiple guys and improve the group.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Is this defense a defensive tackle away from being the top 10 defense we thought they were going to be in 2022? There's no way. No way whatsoever. And now you look at it from the Philadelphia Eagles perspective. The Eagles have 4 defensive tackles who are free agents this year. They spent their first-round pick last year on rookie Jordan Davis. But you have Hargrave. You have Fletcher Cox. You brought in Ndamukong Suh. You brought in Linval Joseph. Hargraves was the youngest of that group. Hargraves was the best of that group. That's really, really difficult competition to get him out of there. But you pay him $20 million. You are now to, Mr. No Name as your other defensive tackle. You don't have money for another edge. If you are going to move on from John Johnson III, you don't have money for a free safety. And you're going bargain basement all the way, the rest of the way around. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't make the most sense towards a recipe for success. Also, I don't think you hired Jim Schwartz and said, okay, so you're telling us we just need a defensive tackle? Because I'm sure Jim Schwartz came here with the thought process that this defense needed some work and it needed more than one defensive tackle. You have a great one of the top edges in the entire NFL in Myles Garrett. But after that, you have guys who aren't there yet or unproven in Alex Wright, in Isaiah Thomas. This needs to be one where you kind of got to piecemeal it, and you kind of got to satisfy everybody here.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the names that you're potentially talking about, it's guys like Marcus Walker. He's got the ties to Jim Schwartz in Tennessee. Nade from Kansas City. Tomlinson, who we've talked about. Fletcher Cox. Ashawn Robinson. Ingram. Lorenzo Carter. Okonkwo. There are guys out there that are in the price range that we're talking about that, in theory, will be very effective. The other thing, Jeff, is I think about this, and every time we mention it, with Myles Garrett playing the edge, your defensive tackles, if they win their one-on-one battles, the quarterback's running into them because they're stepping up to get away from Myles Garrett.
Oh, no, I could not agree with you more. And, as I was talking with Brian, the producer today, and we were putting together some names that I'm interested in. Some of these games are, do you do one aspect well as opposed to the other? Derek Nande is a strong guy in run. So guess what? Derek Nande does his job on either first or second down. He's getting off of the field. A guy I like in DeMarcus Walker didn't really come together much for him in Denver, got down to Tennessee. But the thing with a guy like DeMarcus Walker is he can play edge in first down situations. He can move inside on obviously pass rushing situations. That's a guy that brings you double value, double versatility. Ogmanaya Okoronkwo, he has been a guy. And what did he do? Whether it was Von Miller or Aaron Donald, he was a guy that found a way to eat and feast, basically, being one of the backup dancers to a star. So you have the opportunity for a guy like that here. But these are guys and these lists of names where you're saying, okay, maybe it's $5 million here. Maybe it's 4.5 here. Maybe it's 3 here. And I just got 3 defensive linemen for the price, maybe even less than what it would take to bring in a guy like Hargraves. Fletcher Cox is going to be interesting because if it comes down to he and the Eagles decide it's over because they have the kid, they want to keep Hargraves. Fletcher Cox obviously has a really, really strong relationship with Jim Schwartz. And this is something you look for when you do hire a guy like Jim Schwartz, is that guys could become available who have a history with him. And when they sit down and talk to him and say, look, it'll be 20 to 25 reps a week. We're going to make it easy on you. We're going to make your spring light. We're going to make your summer light. It's all about being ready to go week 1. And a guy like that can truly believe it because he's been with this man before. He knows what he tells him and he can believe that it's factual. You could get, some way where Fletcher Cox and you bring in one of those 2 other guys. Now you're talking about a defensive line room with depth and diversity, guys who are strong versus the run, maybe guys who are stronger versus in pass rush. And that's how you put it all together. I'm not sold or done yet on Perion Winfrey, Alex Wright, Isaiah Thomas. I think those guys are all still capable. And I think we also have to look at the fact, as much as we all talk about Bill Callahan, we need to kind of maybe think about that same thought process here with the Jim Schwartz and a guy like Perion Winfrey and a guy like Alex Wright and a guy like Isaiah Thomas, where their play should get better now that they are playing for an upper echelon coach.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I guess the bottom line is, don't get caught up on the names. Let's see what the skill set of each of these guys is that they're bringing in.
I don't need a Maserati. I'll take 3 or 4 Toyota Camrys, Dave. I really will. I think it'll suit the team best, and it'll also allow for the fact that, we all know in the NFL there's weeks where so-and-so's not going to make it. He's down this week. And you do that in a situation and you think you have 4 really good players. I don't need 4 great players. I'd rather have 8 or 9 good players that I can rotate in and out, basically due to game situation, due to health, all that type of stuff. I'd rather have a nice rotation of players than to say I've got some headliners.